welcome to the final episode in our tutorial series for making a room in Blender and rendering out using the Cycles render engine. In this final episode we're going to look at how to render a 360-degree photosphere like the one we see right before us here, and I've just got this up in Google Docs, and it's a way for us to be able to render out an image but be able to see our whole environment in 360 degrees. Obviously photospheres are becoming quite a thing these days thanks to Google's release of the photosphere in the newest versions of its Android operating system. So that's what we're going to look at today, how to render out an image which we can then convert using metadata into a photosphere that we can use in Google. So we've got this here open in our Google Photos, but also on your phones as well. So first things first, let's have a look at our scene. So we've got our scene in Blender as it was before. I've added a couple more things to the scene, so we can see here I've added some bowls that I've made and some plates, spoons, some very simple tumblers. We're not going to look at how to do those today. You can add any individual elements that you'd like. This tutorial is going to be purely focused on the last stage, which is rendering out the photosphere itself. I'm going to do one more thing because I am aware that my scene is still a little bit dark, so I'm going to add one more light, and I'm just going to create a point light. And in fact I'm going to convert it to an area light, so I've just gone in and shows an area light. So add in an area light if you need to light up your scene, just so it's quite bright in the middle. Okay, so we've got our scene in front of us here. The first thing we're going to do, because there's several stages to this process, is we're going to move our camera. The different stages are, we're going to set up our camera, then we're going to render the image, we're going to save it as a JPEG, we're going to upload that image to our phone, where we're going to add the metadata using a very simple free app. Then we're going to view it on our phone on Google Docs. So for stage one, let's have a look at the camera itself. To select your camera, go up to the top right scene view over here and left click the camera. If you've not got a camera, go to the Create tab and click Camera, or go to Add Camera if you're in an older version of Blender. Once you've clicked your camera in your scene view, you should be able to select it, and we can tell when our camera has been selected because the camera in the scene goes orange. So there's our camera over here in the corner. So that's our camera there. What we want to do is place the camera. To do that we can use the transform tools, which are the arrows, if we'd like to move it around, and we can also use the rotate tools, also down here on the little tool select. But what I'm going to do is show you a much easier and more intuitive way, and that's going to be by changing the camera's location using the view settings. So go to the bottom left and click View, go to the Cameras tab and select Active Camera. This should take us into the Active Camera view, where we should see the camera's shot, and that's going to be what is rendered out there. So anything inside that orange rectangle is what is going to be the image that is rendered out, and anything outside it in the dull zone is not going to be rendered, so only things within this rectangle. So that's our camera's view at the moment in the scene. It shows me what I'm looking at. If I want to move the camera around, there's a few ways I can do that. I can press G on the keyboard for Graham, and then either X, Y or Z to move it in those axes. So press G and X to move it that way, G and then Z to move it up or down, G and Y to move it along that way. And I'm just going to set my camera as near as damn it to the centre of the room. And in fact I'm just going to set it just past the table. We'll sit on this side of the table. If I want to change my camera's angle, I can hold down Shift and F on the keyboard for free look, and then move my mouse around and left click to say when I'm done. I'm going to fine tune my placement of my camera now. For the photosphere, it's normally quite a good idea to make sure that the settings are in increments of 90 degrees. To do this, with my camera still selected in the scene view, I'm going to go down and click on the orange cube icon to go into the object's properties. Underneath there you'll see a little drop down menu called Transform, where we've got the location settings for where the camera is placed and the X, Y and Z axes of the room, and we've also got the rotation axes. Now I'm going to change these, so my X axis I'm going to make 90 degrees, my Y axis I'm going to make 0, and the Z axis I'm going to make -90, and I'm doing that by typing them in and pressing enter on the keyboard. and then I'm also going to set these a little bit. I'm just going to try and get it as near as damn it to center in that room. There we go. Okay, so I've moved my camera. It's kind of in the center of the room, or where I want it to, the photosphere's point of view to be from. I've made sure my rotations are in increments of 90 degrees, and it should be, the camera should kind of look flat ahead, not off at some weird wacky angle. So it shouldn't be like that, it shouldn't be like that, it should just be dead ahead. There we go. And once we've set the camera up like that, what we need to do is then go to the camera settings. So click the little camera icon, making sure you've still got a camera selected in the scene view. So click camera. Under the perspective tab of the lens, click it so it's blue, and then change millimeters to field of view. And then in your field of view, if it's not already, make the field of view 90 degrees. Then go across and click the panoramic tab and change the panoramic type to equirectangular. Perfect. Our camera is now set up to take a 360 degree photosphere image in a very distorted way. The next stage, now we've done the camera settings, is to go to the render settings. The render settings are just this little camera icon on the left hand side. So if we click those. First of all, if we go to the dimensions, this is literally the height and width of the image that's going to be exported. The resolution is the clarity of the image, how clear it is or how blurry. I'm going to set my resolution to 3000 by 1500, and underneath you've got the little compression there, slider bar. I'm going to make sure it's at 100% so it's full quality. And then I'm going to close down my dimensions. Scroll down to output. If it's not already, select JPEG. Turn the quality up to 100%. And I'm going to go down now, and the last thing we will need to do is under the sampling tab. Sampling is to do with how light bounces around your room and how many times Blender samples the light bounce around the room, and it's to do with the quality of your image and how much noise is in your image. Basically, the higher the sample number, on the right hand side you've got samples, render preview, and you've got a number for each. The higher the number, the better quality the image will be, the less noise there'll be, but the more time it will take to render out. And rendering can be a very time consuming process for the computer. So the higher the number, the better the quality, but the longer it will take to do. You've got two render settings, render and preview. Sorry, two sample settings, render and preview. The preview samples is for when we select down here the rendered viewport shading. This is our preview in browser before we actually save the image. The one we're going to need right now is the render settings. Now I'm going to set my render settings to I'll set it to 12 for now, so it's going to be quite low. You'll want to set yours higher, but this is so it renders quick enough. So I've got my render settings to 12 there, and if we go up now, I should be about ready. Go up to the top, click render, and then click render image, and this is going to start rendering the image out. I think it was still up the top right here rather than render. So render image, and the viewport will change and it will start to render. Okay, welcome back. So we can see now our render is complete and we have our room in front of us. I'm going to use my middle mouse wheel to zoom in and out, and we can see that it's done what we call an equirectangular render here. So it's taken the whole room and it's created kind of a weird Salvador Dali-esque kind of strange perspective of the room. Basically what will happen, we'll inject some metadata into that using a free app, and that will tell the phone or the computer that this flat image here is actually a photosphere, and it will bend it around and we'll be able to navigate it and the room will look normal. But before we do that, we've got our render in front of us, but it's not saved. So go down to image, click save as image. Make sure that you select down here as the save as image, make sure it's a JPEG. Do not save it as a PNG, it has to be a JPEG. And save it something that will make sense to you. So I'm going to call this photosphere for Blender. And click save image. And that will now save it as a JPEG. And what we need to do now is we need to upload this image to our phone. our Android phone if you've got one, where we're going to add the metadata. So I'm going to come out of Blender, just leave that in the background, and I'm going to go into my browser, and I've got my mail open here. And what we're going to do, I'll just mark those as red. I'm going to make a new email. I'm going to email myself the image that I've just made. So I'm going to attach that from my computer. I'm going to go onto my phone. I'm going to go onto Google Play, download Photosphere Tagger from the Google Play Store. It's a free app that's going to inject the metadata into your picture. So here it is, Photosphere XMP Tagger free. Wonderful free app. Can't recommend it enough. So download that. And then I'm going to navigate on my Android phone to find where I've saved the file. So I've sent myself this file over an email and I've already downloaded it. You can obviously Google Docs, Dropbox, whatever way you've got to get the image onto your phone. So navigate through your phone settings to where you've saved it. Mine's in my download folder, so there it is. I'm going to click that. That's it. So I'm going to hold down on it to select it, and then I'm going to press the share icon. And when the share options come up, we can see there's an option there that says add tag on the left hand side. So click that and it comes up finished. We've now injected the metadata into that, and it's made a copy of that file with the metadata on. So if we now go back, let's quickly find where that file is. I think if I go into my Google Photos, I should be able to find it quite easily in there. So there we go, there's Photos. Give that a click to open up, and we'll see there's the file. And you can see it's got the icon, the photosphere icon in the middle. If I give it a click, here we go, we're now in. So now we've taken a 2D image and we've converted it into seemingly a 3D environment that we can look at all around in on our phone. And you can also open this up in your browser if you've got Google Chrome on a computer. So once it's in your Google Docs and it's got